Caitlin Clark stepped into Gainbridge Fieldhouse on Friday night carrying far more than just competitive intensity. Her frustration wasn't aimed at the Golden State Valkyries or even the defensive schemes waiting for her on the court. What truly pushed her over the edge was the non-stop wave of misleading narratives surrounding her situation. For every superstar athlete, there comes a moment when the pressure stops being just about basketball and turns into a battle on every possible front. And for Clark, that moment seemed to arrive before the game had even started. During the pregame press conference, she didn't hold back for a second. Sitting at the podium with cameras locked on her, Clark directly confronted the media coverage that had dominated headlines all week. She calmly but firmly shut down the rumors and corrected the false reporting about her injury timeline. No vague responses, no dodging questions. She laid out the facts exactly as they happened, making it clear she was done allowing misleading stories to shape the conversation around her.
And I actually went back and looked, because of all these narratives that are going crazy online about when I told my mom I wasn't going to play the game, 4:47, and you guys found out at 5:20. So one of the most important people in my life found out 40 minutes before you guys.
That was Caitlin Clark sending a crystal clear message to the entire basketball world. The idea of some injury reporting conspiracy made absolutely no sense when you looked at the real timeline. Everything happened within an incredibly short window, and she made sure everyone understood it. You could see the frustration all over her face. It was easily the most fired up she had looked in any media session this season. Then came the response. One night later, Clark turned all of that built-up anger into a performance that felt explosive from the opening possession to the final buzzer. It wasn't just dominant basketball, it felt personal, it felt calculated, and it became one of the most intense and unforgettable performances Indiana Fever fans have seen in years. Welcome back to WNBA Pro. Today we're diving deep into what may have been the fiercest, most emotional, and most commanding game of Caitlin Clark's professional career. This wasn't simply about putting up points in a 90-82 win over the Golden State Valkyries. It was about a superstar reaching her breaking point and responding in the loudest way possible. Clark played with a level of edge and aggression that completely changed the atmosphere of the game. Every possession carried emotion. Every shot looked like a response to the criticism surrounding her. This wasn't just a highlight performance. It felt like a direct challenge to the media narratives, the doubters, and anyone trying to minimize her impact. We're going to break down everything: the non-stop physicality she battled through, the double technical that seemed to ignite another level in her game, and the revealing comments from the opposing head coach that showed just how impossible she was to contain. Because if you only look at the box score, you'll see the numbers, but if you actually watch the game unfold possession by possession, you'll realize this matchup felt far more intense than a normal regular season contest. It looked like chaos, emotion, and pressure colliding in real time, and Caitlin Clark stood right at the center of it all.
They kind of did everything they could to stop Caitlin, and you got to give Nakase credit, because she is the guard stopper. That's her thing. That's her thing. She's able to stop guards, and she did everything to try to stop Caitlin. It didn't work.
The opening half of this game felt more like a heavyweight fight than a regular WNBA matchup. The Golden State Valkyries arrived in Indianapolis with a detailed defensive strategy built specifically to slow down Caitlin Clark. Head coach Natalie Nakase had clearly done her homework. One of the sharpest defensive minds in the league, Nakase has spent years studying Clark's tendencies dating all the way back to her legendary Iowa career. She understood every dangerous part of Clark's offensive arsenal: the signature left step back, the deep logo range three-pointer, and the hesitation dribble that creates just enough separation for her pull-up shot. And from the opening tip, the Valkyries committed to taking those weapons away at all costs. Golden State constantly rotated defenders onto Clark, crowding her space the second she touched the ball. Every catch came with contact. Every movement was disrupted by pressure and physical play. The entire game plan revolved around knocking her out of rhythm and forcing her into an uncomfortable style of basketball. For much of the first two quarters, the strategy actually worked. The constant pressure disrupted the flow of Indiana's offense, and Clark struggled to find clean looks or establish her usual tempo. The aggressive defensive coverage made even routine possessions difficult, forcing her to fight for every inch of space on the floor. But if the Valkyries believed that this relentless level of physicality would break Caitlin Clark mentally or force her to back down, they badly underestimated the kind of competitor they were dealing with. Late in the first half,
before the break, we got a little John going on. Caitlin says, hey,
look,
you and me, Hayes, you
Kelly,
and me.
Look at Caitlin blowing her kisses. Caitlin blew her kisses, bro. Look. So no, it was Janelle Sloan and Caitlin Clark. Referees had to step in. Look at Caitlin, guys.
All the built-up frustration finally boiled over. Caitlin Clark attacked the rim with force, then aggressively reached for a loose ball that was tied up with Valkyrie's forward Janelle Salayun. The contact instantly escalated to the moment. Salayun didn't appreciate the extra physicality and immediately stepped right into Clark's space. Within seconds, both players were exchanging heated words face to face as the intensity inside the arena suddenly reached another level. Players from both benches started inching toward the court while tensions kept rising. Veronica Burton quickly moved in to help separate the two before things escalated even further, and the officials responded by issuing double technical fouls, one to Clark and one to Salon. As the teams headed into the locker room at halftime, the atmosphere inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse felt completely different. The game no longer felt like a normal regular season matchup. It felt emotional, personal, and dangerously close to exploding in the second half. What many people overlooked was how much that confrontation changed the energy of the game moving forward. To understand why, you have to understand Caitlin Clark's mindset as a competitor. She isn't the type of player who goes searching for drama or unnecessary confrontations. Most of the time, she absorbs the contact, the trash talk, and the pressure, then channels it directly into her performance. And in that moment, everything collided at once. The non-stop physical defense, the frustration surrounding the injury speculation, the constant media attention, and now a heated on-court altercation all combined into one emotional breaking point. For most players, that kind of pressure can become overwhelming, but with a competitor like Clark, pushing her that far can have the opposite effect. Instead of rattling her confidence, it seemed to unlock another level entirely.
It's damn near altering the game, bro. It's just damn near altering the game. Let me pull this up real quick. Let me pull the game cast back up real quick. So it's another timeout. So the Fever call a full time. Why would Stephanie White call a timeout? I don't know what happened. I got to see what happened, guys.
Caitlin Clark came out of the locker room in the third quarter and immediately shifted the entire tone of the game. She brought the ball up the floor with complete composure, walked herself right to the logo, well beyond 30 feet, and let it fly. Tie game at 48. In front of a home crowd that had already been tested by doubt and frustration, she buried a deep pull-up from another planet with zero hesitation. But what came next made the moment even louder. Clark didn't just retreat back on defense quietly. She turned directly toward veteran guard Tiffany Hayes, stepped into her space, and delivered sharp, confident trash talk. Not reckless, not out of control, but the kind of competitive edge only elite players recognize in each other during a high-stakes battle. Hayes responded. Clark answered back, and suddenly Gainbridge Fieldhouse erupted into pure electricity. It felt like a release, a buildup of frustration from the physical defense, the media noise, and the narrative surrounding her. Finally,
Leah Boston off Kelsey assist. Caitlin Clark makes 2 free throws. Tip Hayes hits a 3. Sophie Cunningham makes a free throw. Caitlin hits a big 3 to tie it up from like 30. From 30. They go hit a 3. Hines Allen's okay. And then suddenly it's like Caitlin makes a real tough layup and 1. She makes a super tough and 1 to give the Fever the lead for the first time. Caitlin misses a circus shot, then hits Sophie.
Lexi Hull doing it all on that defensive possession. Clark. Oh! From another stratosphere!
Once Caitlin Clark knocked down that absurd logo 3, the entire defensive structure from Golden State was forced into emergency mode. The Valkyries had to shift on the fly, and the moment they adjusted, everything they were trying to contain started to fall apart. Passing lanes opened up instantly, and Indiana's transition offense began to flow with complete freedom. From that point on, Clark controlled the game like a conductor in full command of the tempo. She finished with a standout performance: 22 points, 9 highly efficient assists, and 4 made threes on 9 attempts, logging 32 demanding minutes on the floor. The second half exposed the flaw in Golden State's plan. No defensive scheme can stay locked in on her for 40 minutes without eventually paying a heavy physical and mental price. And when Caitlin Clark plays with that level of aggressive, ball-dominant precision, the entire Indiana Fever system elevates with her. Aaliyah Boston was the clearest example of that shift. She stepped into one of the most quietly dominant performances of her career, pulling down 16 rebounds and completely controlling the paint while adding 20 points on an efficient 8 for 15 shooting night. With Clark pushing pace in transition and finding Boston in stride, Indiana starts to look like a completely different team, one with real, dangerous upside on a playoff level. But if anyone needed proof beyond the eye test, they got it after the final buzzer, when even the opposing coach acknowledged what had just unfolded on the floor.
16 rebounds with 24 seconds left in this one. Caitlin Clark don't look like she's going to get a double-double, but you never know. You just never know. But they out fouling, so I doubt she get it. 22, 9 and 2. 22, 9 and 2. Solid numbers, bro. Caitlin Clark been averaging 20 points a game, guys.
Natalie Nakase is widely regarded as one of the sharpest coaching minds in the WNBA. With experience that includes time on the Golden State Warriors staff, her film study and tactical preparation are second to none. But after the 90-82 defeat, she offered an unusually blunt assessment of what just happened on the floor. Nakase admitted that Caitlin Clark didn't just beat the coverage, she adapted to it in real time. She located the smallest cracks in the defense and repeatedly threaded passes through openings the Valkyries simply didn't anticipate. Because as Nakase came to understand, you can game plan for the step back three, you can prepare for the deep logo range, but you can't fully simulate a player who is actively diagnosing your defensive system possession by possession and dismantling it piece by piece. That's what separates elite talent from generational talent. It's not just about executing their own strengths, it's about exposing every weakness in yours and exploiting it without hesitation. With that win, the Indiana Fever moved to 4-2, and the signs are starting to stack up. Caitlin Clark looks fully healthy. Aaliyah Boston delivered her strongest outing of the season, and the overall momentum is becoming impossible to ignore. This is the version of Caitlin Clark that changes everything. Not the restricted minutes, carefully managed version, but the fully unleashed competitor. Aggressive, vocal, deep-range shooting, and completely in control of the game's rhythm. That's the player who can carry Indiana through the chaos of a demanding season. On Friday night, she made sure every coach, executive, analyst, and defender around the league understood that clearly once again.